Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to the March 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Weems to do the invocation.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Today, I'd like everyone to bow their heads as I recite the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time, are there any corrections or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So I think at this time, Director Vaughn, we have a little.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jackie Vaughn, Director of Public Safety for Calvert County. Back in 2016, the board awarded a multi-million-dollar, $21 million project, radio project to Motorola Solutions Incorporated. We're happy today to be able to cut over to that radio system. It's been a long project. We've asked Commissioner Hance to read a brief statement over the radio system, officially placing it in service. We began this morning at 5 a.m. cutting our dispatchers over to the new system, and at 8 a.m. we began programming the fire department radios. Right now, currently, those radios are being programmed over Wi-Fi, which is something we've never had before. We've had to physically go and hook a laptop up to a radio and program it, which is very time-consuming. Right now, we were programming 100 radios every 30 minutes. So it is awesome, and we're happy to be placing it in service. We have about 6 months after today to clean up all the little punch list items. We're going to be removing the monopole that's at the back of the courthouse. It's been an eyesore for many years. So we have little items to be cleaning up for the next 6 months until we do final system acceptance, but we're here today to place it in service. Next week we'll be cutting law enforcement over to the new system, and the week after that we'll begin cutting county government users over to the new system. So Stanley Harris, who's recently been promoted to the division chief in charge of emergency communications, we're happy that he's there in that position. He's going to assist Commissioner Hance with the new radio and have our little blurb to put over the radio system.
So I just want to take this opportunity to thank Director Vaughn. This has not been an easy or quick task. Several roadblocks she's had to deal with over the last few years, and we had an antiquated system with quite a few holes. And we hope that this new system is going to fill those holes and serve us for the citizens of Calvert County for a very long time.
Thank you. And staff has done an awesome job. You know, from the county attorney's office to purchasing to communications to the sheriff's office. You know, when we first started on this task, it's been a long task, but we're happy to be here now.
Board of County Commissioners for Calvert County are pleased to place in service the new Motorola 800 MHz Astro P25 public safety radio system. The system is comprised of 15 sites, 10-channel radio system that offers the first responders and county government agencies a state-of-the-art radio system that allows for redundancy, improved interoperable mutual aid communications, enhanced coverage, encryption, and a guaranteed 20-year maintenance plan to protect against technological obsolescence. The board would like to thank staff, consultants, and the vendor for all their dedication and support in
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I could say a couple words real quick. You know, this seems like just a blip. You know, you see this little paragraph, but no kidding, 4 to 5 years. And this was tough sledding. You know, the state of Maryland, when they issued this out, nobody had experience with having to do this ever. And Jackie doesn't take enough credit. Her staff, county attorney, there was a whole lot of, you know, who's going to blink first moments. I mean, they forced this multi-million-dollar situation down on the residents and basically just said, you're going to just do it the way we say it, and it wasn't right. And she's really not patting herself enough on the back and staff. They really pushed hard, a lot of field testing, a lot of going out, saying, this ain't right, that ain't right. I'm telling you, sincere congratulations to get it this far. There was times we didn't know if it was even going to go. We didn't know if we were going to have to start all over again. I mean, this was, I'm sure you'll be so thankful when this is finally done, Jackie, because I can't imagine the amount of time that was spent to get this there, and just wholeheartedly thank you guys. This is not as easy as a quick little blurb on a thing. So, I mean, I didn't have to do it like you guys did. So I can't say I have a clue how hard you worked, because I didn't. That was great job, guys. Fantastic.
Yeah, I was getting calls from neighbors because people were starting work at 6 a.m. and working at 9 o'clock at night kind of thing, and, you know, so I know how much you put into that, and I tried to explain that to people, you know, how crucial this was to get this completed, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weed?
I just, again, want to reiterate many thanks to all involved. I also wanted to take a moment to express, you know, Commissioner Nutter, Hedgel, and Slogan-Hop were also instrumental in the award of this contract, so I just want to acknowledge their participation.
And I don't think you mentioned that 20 wasn't cheap.
Yes, sir. It's $21.4 million. And we have a guaranteed, as long as we pay our maintenance every year, a guaranteed 20-year maintenance, warranty and maintenance contract, that nothing will become obsolete in those 20 years. So we have a system that's going to be here for a minimum of 20 years. We'll probably be starting on the next system here in the next few years because it takes so long to plan those out, just to start refreshing where the industry's going to go in 20 years.
So one thing that's crucial is back when we had an incident at Calvert High School and the law enforcement went in, they completely lost reception and could not communicate amongst each other, and this is gonna be huge for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We went into all the schools as critical buildings and tested those schools with the new system, and those schools that did not pass were required to have a BDA, which is a bidirectional amplifier, installed in those schools
Right.
to amplify the signal of the radio system so that we will still have communications in those schools.
That's great.
We're completing 3 of those schools right now. We'll be starting the last 2 schools here shortly to have those BDAs installed in them.
Perfect.
And without going into the detail, we can't emphasize enough, this was not an easy process.
No.
I mean,
It
there
was-
were many, many issues that the director had to deal with,
And somebody asked me how long it had been occurring, and to be quite honest, it's been about 11 years for me, because we started with the budget process, because finance and budget, you know, $21 million is a big hit to the CIP. So we ended up breaking it up into 3 years where they were $7 million each of those 3 years. It went into a pot. So at the end, we would have the funding available. We went out to bid for a consultant in 2013. So it's been, you know, we wrote our RFP before we released it. So it's been a long process.
very good.
Very rewarding, though. First responders have a state-of-the-art system now.
Commissioner Hutchins?
Mr. President, thank you. Again, to emphasize what Commissioner McConkey mentioned, in the fall of 2019, when we were having some, let's call them debates, about the number of antennas and that type of thing, we emphasized the need to where law enforcement officers making traffic stops and suddenly have to chase somebody down into a ravine, we've got to make absolutely sure that they have 100% communication capability. And so I feel comfortable we've achieved that mark with what the director has put forth here today.
Very good. Thank you, Director Vaughn.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So next on the agenda is Dr. Polsky. We'll get our weekly update on COVID.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, sir.
I wish I had a little bit better news as far as statistics. We continue to see a rise in cases in the county. This is a breakdown by age group, and what you can see is very few cases in seniors, which we are thrilled about, and certainly a reflection of the effort to prioritize seniors for vaccines up to this point. You can also see an increase in younger people. I do want to point out, because you see an increase in those who are under 15, we did take a look at children who have been back in school versus those who have been 100% virtual, and we found no difference in infection rates. And I want to make very clear that to this point we have not seen any transmission within the schools. Also want to point out that we are dealing with two new variants in the state and the region, the UK variant and the California variants. They're actually two viruses that are almost identical that were first identified in California and are now increasingly prevalent in Maryland. Those strains we know are more transmissible, and there's at least early evidence that they might actually cause more severe disease. As of yesterday, there were 10 people hospitalized at our local hospital with COVID, and there were more people hospitalized in their 30s than 70 and above. So this is something that we still unfortunately need to take seriously. The last fatality that we had in the county due to COVID was someone in their 40s. So everyone needs to continue to take precautions. When they have a chance to get vaccinated, extremely important, especially if they have any underlying health conditions, that they take that opportunity to get vaccinated. And it seems like we've been doing this forever. It's been a full year at this point since we had our first cluster of cases. So this is a graph looking at positivity rates going all the way back. Now, I will throw out there that up through May, there were very limited availability of test kits. So the only people who were getting tested in March, April, May of last year were people at very high risk, generally people who were hospitalized or people in nursing homes. So the positivity rates are artificially elevated because we were not testing people in the general public. So if you take a look from about June on, you can see that big peak that we had around the holidays and that upswing that we've had in the last few weeks, again, likely due to the variants circulating and potentially sort of relaxation in people's vigilance about the virus.
So Doc Polsky, if somebody wants a test, what's the process?
So in the county, all of the primary care offices are providing testing, and all 3 urgent care locations are providing testing. So 7 days a week there are tests available. People just need to call, and they can go ahead and get tested. There's no limitations on the amount of tests available at the moment.
So the positivity rate is based on the number of people that test positive that get tested?
So positivity rate is the number of people who test positive divided by the total number of tests that are performed. So if you have 100 people get tested and 10 people test positive, the positivity rate would be 10%. And what we're seeing right now, our positivity rate is a little bit over 6%. So at this point, we're seeing, I think we can compare apples to apples, meaning that the availability of testing has been consistent over the past several months, whereas we can't compare what we're seeing now to back about a year ago where testing was very, very restricted.
So I know of someone that called their private provider because they had some symptoms. They thought they wanted to get a test, and that private provider asked a few questions and said, no, you don't need a test. Doesn't that skew the test results if a private provider is sort of going through a checklist. So that means people that would have just walked in and got a test would have tested negative and would be better representative of the population than a screening process, and you're only testing those people that you think are going to be positive.
Right. So there's no system that's going to be perfect. And I don't know if that's a one-off or how often that happens in general, because we are seeing thousands of tests being done every week. So I can say that the vast majority of people who are calling and wish to be screened are getting screened. And on the flip side, there are people who are going in for things that they would not necessarily have called to get a COVID test, but when they complain that maybe their allergies are worse or their asthma is acting up a little bit more, their family doctor is saying, and we really need to screen you for COVID. So things work both ways with that. And I've mentioned before, but I will take the opportunity that involving primary care providers, I think, has been a tremendous boon to the people of this county. If we take a look at fatalities, if we were proportional to the number of deaths statewide, we would have had 57 more deaths in this county than we have right now. And if we take a look at hospitalizations, 270 more people would have ended up hospitalized if we were just at the state average. So the idea of having family doctors involved in decision-making, I think, is keeping people healthier overall. So I'm going to transition to vaccinations. As most people know, the majority of vaccines have been shifted over to the mass vac site, so this just gives you some numbers of what's happened very recently. On the right side of the screen, you see what we're getting locally. Our health department has been nudged up from 500 doses a week a couple weeks ago to 700 doses this week. The hospital received 200 doses. And then the pharmacies have a question mark because we know which pharmacies are getting doses, but the state doesn't make it clear how many those pharmacies are getting. So that 500 to 800, it's somewhere within that range. And then the whole bunch of initials down below. So Calvert Internal Medicine Group, for the first time, received 100 doses this week, which they very quickly were able to administer to their thousands and thousands of patients. And then the Calvert Health Medical Group, so the primary care people affiliated or under the hospital umbrella, received 200 doses. That's part of a new program, which I think should have been started a while back, but at least they finally got it off the ground, where they are now piloting giving vaccines directly to primary care providers. And I think this will also increase the number of people who are getting vaccinated. Not everyone's going to go to a website, and I can say that when I was in practice, if I told one of my patients I think this was really important for her, it was, I think, much more impactful than just seeing a public service message. Our hope is that over the next few weeks, the number of practices who are allocated vaccines and the number of doses they're each getting will continue to go up. And then you can see on the left side of the screen, just the vastly different, the scale of the doses is just dramatically different. So the Regency Stadium in Charles County just opened up about 2.5 weeks ago. They've already received 62,000 doses of vaccine, and you can see the number for Six Flags in Prince George's.
Dr. Polsky, on that note, sir,
Yes.
is the federal government in control of Regency Stadium? Is that,
No.
that is a state?
It is a state.
Okay.
To the best of my understanding, the governor tasked the National Guard with running that site.
Okay, okay.
And then so this breaks down a little bit for what's happening locally. The number of Calvert residents who've been vaccinated at any mass vaccination site, and this goes back to when the first sites, about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So in total, about 1,300 residents have been vaccinated, 438 at the mass vac site in Charles County, and about 800 at Six Flags. The total number of Calvert residents who have been vaccinated at any site per the state's latest data is about 22,500. And actually, since I made up this slide a little bit ago, we're up to 12,700 vaccinated through the health department, about 2,900 through the hospital, and then approximately 5,000 through the pharmacies. And then, as I put on the slide, that includes the early efforts with some of the nursing home vaccinations that were done by CVS and Walgreens. There are some doses missing. And that's primarily for people who work they live in Calvert, but they work outside of the county. They may work at Anne Arundel Medical Center or the hospital in St. Mary's, or they may be law enforcement in another county. So some people have gotten vaccinated through that means. And that's a whole lot of numbers. I think the take-home from this is that about 24% of Calvert residents have at least received a first dose, which is a little bit above what the state average is, which is about 23%. And about half the number who have received a first dose have already received their second dose. The percentage of people coming back for second dose is actually very high, over 95%, which we're very happy to see. And of course, those getting Johnson & Johnson, it's a one and done. And then did want to close with just the horrible chart. It's taking a look at new cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days. And you can see that because our numbers have consistently climbed over the last month, that we are over that 164 per 100,000. And the positivity rate, I'm sorry, I think I said 6 point some percent, but it's 7% for the last week. And that's it for the slides.
So Doc, question, so the CDC has gone from 6 feet to 3 feet. What's the basis of that?
So what you're talking about is in reference to the schools, not just in general.
Well,
So-
I mean, I would
so
think
see-
it would apply, if it applies to school, should apply in every, I mean, there should be no difference of being in a school or being in a building or,
Well, so the CDC's recommendations only apply to children in schools. They do not apply to adults in schools. So this recommendation is separation of children to teachers or other adults, or adults to adults in schools is still 6 feet.
is
Evidence,
there a logic to that?
yeah, there is.
Okay.
So the evidence, I will say, is still accumulating, and this is not what I would consider in any way, shape, or form hard science at this point, but there's gradually increasing evidence that children are less transmissible to other children. That there's a lot of vague data when it comes to middle school and high school level, but the CDC came out with their explanation. They did not come out with an accompanying 20-page treatise on how they arrived at these conclusions.
So on paper, I guess you would, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but the belief would be 2 12-year-olds are not as dangerous as 2 30-year-olds
Well, when you say
to
dangerous,
each other, to transmit to each other.
so most of the evidence shows that 2 12-year-olds are less likely to transmit to each other than 2 30-year-olds, yes.
So a flu virus knows the age of the person, I guess, is what the, I mean,
So, and I know you're
you know
being
where I'm
somewhat
going with
facetious,
this.
but so-
I
so
can't make sense of it.
Viruses are indifferent to any of our actions. They just,
So they're
do
saying
what
it's
viruses
action-driven,
do.
not age-driven.
we are still, to give you the deep, like, why does it transmit less readily between, and 12-year-olds, again, it starts to get vague as you hit around adolescence. So let's just back it up to, say, 2 7-year-olds. Why 2 7-year-olds are less likely to transmit to each other? And that does not mean, because I've heard people confused that they can't transmit. They can. And we've seen that many occasions where one sibling picks up the virus, and it's oftentimes been through travel sports, but it's been other places as well, and then they bring it into the home, and then the siblings all end up catching COVID. So I want to make it clear that children can transmit to other children.
Because what's crazy is typically children interact much more physically and closely, especially in a school setting, than adults would. You don't see 2 teachers high-fiving each other on a playground. Not typically. But, kids, high-fiving, interact as kids do, So that's what is hard for me to understand is all that interaction doesn't seem to bother the CDC as much as people staying away from each other. I mean, it just seems like it would be the opposite. Right?
Well, I'm not in discussions with the CDC, so I'm not sure how to kind of follow with your.
Well, it just
Yeah.
seems from the outside looking in that they're saying, okay, well, 3 feet is okay inside of a school. And I think, and I ain't putting words in anybody's mouth, just my own personal, not Calvert County, is they figured out that, hey, 6 feet, I can't get them in school. So I'm going to say 3 feet, because classrooms are already 25 kids a class. So if it's safe to be 3 feet, in that setting, then it's safe to be 3 feet anywhere.
But,
So
but the CDC, what didn't get publicized, Mike, is they still have the other requirements in place. If you're in a high-risk category, you can't do 3 feet. You know, there's
Right.
other components, so they didn't just say, okay, go to 3 feet in elementary school and middle schools. There's still these other conditions, just like the governor announced a week or so ago, restaurants can go to 100%.
But he
But
hasn't
that's all he
relaxed to
said.
6 feet, right?
But he didn't relax to 6 feet. So the news, you know, picks up bits and pieces that get you to watch and don't give you all the detail. So, you know, the people that are screaming for get the schools back full again, the 6 foot requirement is still there.
Right,
And
that hasn't been lifted, right?
that has not been changed.
And that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to make sense of here is, you know, the CDC kind of writes the script for the rest of the country, right? I mean,
Right.
that's where everybody goes to when something hits. First thing you see is CDC, and to make a statement like that, to say, well, 3 feet in there, but not 3 feet, say in,
High schools.
or yeah,
You
yeah.
can't have 3 feet in high school.
or say a Walmart or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just seemed. I remember a time, you know, when AIDS came out, and there was all these people, all these authorities saying, well, you don't get it this way, and they just really didn't know. And I think the better statement would be, we just don't know. I mean, would be the honest statement, because it's just hard for somebody like me to understand that a kid is safe in 6th grade, but he's not safe in 12th grade. I mean, and then you know, especially if they're saying, well, it's behavior driven, it's definitely not biology driven. I can't imagine the disease is
Oh,
doing
well,
a question.
no, it absolutely is biology driven.
So you think there's a difference between a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old?
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to catching the
There's
flu?
well, there's clearly differences between 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds, and there's clearly differences between 7-year-olds and 12-year-olds.
But the 12-year-old's less vulnerable than the 15-year-old.
So again, I can give a potential, but I cannot say why. So we know that all viruses need to bind onto our cells to be able to infect. We know that this particular virus binds onto the ACE2 receptors. It is quite plausible that the ACE2 receptors go through some kind of maturation process that in children does not allow the virus to bind on as strongly as it does as we mature. Now, we don't know that, so I don't want anyone to leave this discussion thinking that's why, but that is a very plausible explanation.
It's very
Mr. President?
confusing.
I guess we'll have to see. I guess history will.
And everyone's trying to balance the best they can. You know, I think in a very crude way, we set speed limits out there. Do we think that no one's going to die in a car crash because they're going 40 or 55 miles an hour? It will happen, but you're less likely to die in a car crash going 40 miles an hour than going 80 miles an hour. So what everyone's trying to do is balance. They realize that, you know, it's important for kids, for socialization, for emotional, and for academic, for them to be in school. On the other hand, there is a real cost because, as I mentioned, you know, we are seeing younger people getting sicker at this point, and we still have kids who live with their grandparents. And what everyone's trying to do is balance the best they can. There's no perfect solution at this point.
Doc,
Commissioner Hutchins, were you trying to get in?
Yes, Mr. President, Doctor, just a couple questions. At what age range are we working on now and generally as far as administration of the vaccine?
So we are starting to lower down to 60 and above. We know that we've vaccinated the vast majority of 65 and over, but we know there's some people who still have not been able to get vaccinated, so we will continue to prioritize. So as we see more 65 and over register, we will move them to the front of the line. But at this point, if we restrict it to 65 and over, we may end up with unfilled slots, and we certainly don't want vaccines sitting in refrigerators.
Sure. With regards to the underserved, how are we assessing that situation?
Yeah,
They may not have a physician to go to.
Right. So I think we're doing a very good job in the county. We're certainly working with social service. We're working with Department of Office of Aging to make sure that we are getting the word out. We're doing outreach in minority communities. And when we take a look at distribution among those demographics, then again, we're certainly doing better than the state as a whole. One of the advantages to having vaccine in physician offices, and I realize it's not going to get to people who don't have a primary care, but 96% of people in this county have health insurance, and they have access to physicians and nurse practitioners. One of the advantages of having vaccine in doctor's offices is that they can take a look to see who is Medicaid eligible. I think one of the forgotten groups are low-income people. And as a health department, we have no way of assessing income stratification, but at least doctor's offices, based on insurance, can identify people who are lower income and can do outreach to them and try to get those people better vaccinated.
Well, I understand that the capabilities of the health department, but working in conjunction with our community services to do the best we possibly can to identify anyone in the underserved and collective work with the physicians. But, while 96% of us might have health care, there's still 4% out there that we just can't let fall through the cracks. So we've got to keep focus on that.
Absolutely.
Lastly, is just the overview of the picture. It hadn't changed. The situation is that COVID remains a threat, its variant remains a threat, and our mission is to be able to defeat that in order to get our kids back to school on a full-time basis, in order to get our economy back running, and consequently at some lag time beyond that, 6 months, 8 months, be able to reach an employment figure that was somewhat near pre-COVID levels, perhaps. So I think for the general public, that's a simple way of looking at what we're faced with and we're continue to be faced with, and we all just need to keep doing our part. Thank you, Doctor.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Regardless of what people think their personal risk is, everyone who's vaccinated means it's less likely as time goes on that the virus will continue to transmit, and we, as you said, we can move back toward that normalcy that we would all very much like to see.
Thank you.
Mr. Weems?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. You touched on where we are. I mean, the governor's orders, I have deemed it the apex executive order, which everything flows below. Last week, I believe we were supposed to go into phase 2
Actually today.
today.
Right.
Okay, and that's still a go, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And so now they've broken phase 2 into 3 subgroups. So 2A starts today. That's people who are 60 and over, as opposed to 65 and over, are now eligible. And then the following week, it opens up to any adult with chronic underlying health conditions, and there's a laundry list through the CDC for people to qualify. And then 2 weeks after that, it drops down to age 55 and over, and then the last week in April, it's all comers.
Okay.
Again, the hope and expectation at this point is that the supply of vaccine through the federal government, through the national supply, will increase significantly starting next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
So the next item on the agenda is proclamations, and I have a retirement proclamation. Mr. Hooper. So today it's my privilege and honor to present this proclamation to Billy Hooper on his retirement from county government for 39 years. And I'm very happy to say Billy and I grew up together, worked together for a while, way, way back when gas was 27 cents a gallon.
Yeah, long time ago, buddy.
I don't know that because we worked together at Ray Talbert's gas
Yeah, Ray
station.
Talbot.
How come he looks so much younger than you?
I can't help that. Good living.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's funny. I tell my wife that.
yeah, yeah.
I look a lot younger.
Yeah.
She doesn't
So,
agree.
really, Billy, we do want to thank you for your service. You've been a great public servant to the citizens of Calvert County for all these years, and we're so grateful for that. And want to wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank
you. So, I'll read this proclamation. Whereas Billy Hooper is retiring on March 28, 2021, after dedicating 39 years of faithful and loyal service to the citizens of Calvert County and the state of Maryland, and whereas Billy's admirable career began on August 24, 1981, as a wastewater operator with Department of Public Works, Water and Sewer Division. On August 4th, 1982, his job was reclassified to Water Operator 1. He was promoted to Water Operator 2 on June 11th, 1985, and to Environmental Systems Plant Operator 2 on January 9th, 1990. On May 6th, 1991, he was promoted to Erosion and Sediment Control Inspector with the Department of Public Works, Project Management and Inspections Division. His position was reclassified to Public Works Inspector 2 on April 7th, 2014, and on December 12th, 2016, he was promoted to Grading Inspector Supervisor, where he served until his retirement. And whereas Billy has provided reliable and exemplary service during his career, thereby gaining tremendous respect, trust, and admiration from Calvert County citizens and fellow constituents who had the pleasure to work with him, he is an example of effective and hands-on leadership and is highly respected by his staff and colleagues. Both professionally and personally, Billy is a dependable, considerate, and kind man. And whereas his commendable and distinguished service has been demonstrated with a spirit of pride and commitment throughout his exemplary career with the Department of Public Works, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County presents this proclamation as a tribute to Billy's outstanding accomplishments during his distinguished career, thereby recognizing this amazing man who strives to improve the quality of life for all Calvert County citizens. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County that the appreciation of all Calvert County citizens is hereby extended to Billy Hooper on his retirement after 39 years of reliable and commendable public service. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County joins with the community, co-workers, family, and friends in conveying best wishes for a long, healthy, and happy retirement with continued success in all his future endeavors. Given under our hands in this seal this 23rd day of March 2021, signed by all five. Thank you, Billy. Congratulations. Rachel is just distracted.
Before I get that, buddy, I'd just like to say, it's been great. Calvert County has been a wonderful place to work. I'm telling you, I've worked places before I started here where you weren't sure that check you were getting at the end of the week was good. But for 39 years, every 2 weeks, I've gotten a check from Calvert County, and it has been good. And just lastly, I'd like to thank these guys back here that I work with. Best division in Calvert County, project management. None better. So keep that in mind.
You got out at the right time, because I don't know if that check's going to keep clearing. You know?
He's going to keep getting a check, right?
You want us down or up, or? Come down here, Mike.
What do you want us to do?
Down there.
Let's go down there.
Let's go down there.
I want to be close to you now.
Should we get Raymond?
Rachel, you want a picture? You got anybody else you want a picture?
I would like to have my wife, but I don't think they want to do it. Come on. Make sure people in the front.
Why is he looking at me?
Good?
I say you go coming forward, there you go.
Turn sideways. Okay. I like Billy.
We're gonna get some. Perfect.
All right.
Congratulations.
Billy, congratulations, man. I don't know what's in today's world how it is. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mary Beth Cook, Director of Planning and Zoning. I just wanted to let you know it's been my pleasure to work with Billy for 28 years, and it's been just great. He's very professional. If he doesn't agree with you, he puts his head down and shakes a little bit, but he'll... And we didn't agree on sports teams, but we always had friendly banter going back and forth. So Billy, on behalf of the Department of Planning and Zoning, I want to wish you well in your retirement, and I hope you get to go see your sports teams live real soon. take care. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Morning, Deputy Director of Public Works. Billy, it's been a pleasure working with you over the past 20 years. I've known you from both the private side and the public side, and you've been an excellent inspector to work with, and your shoes will be hard to fill, and we will miss you at Public Works. Have a good retirement.
Matt Tadmer, Construction Project Supervisor for Project Management. Wanted to thank Billy for his years of service. I worked with him in the private industry for 15 years, and I've worked beside him for about 4 years now. And he's the same inside and out. No matter where you are, he's going to lend a helping hand. Thank you for your service, Billy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we want to thank Billy for Rachel. Rachel, who is our clerk, is Billy's daughter. And we're very happy to have Rachel. And hopefully in 39 years, somebody else is going to give her a proclamation. Won't be me. So thank you, Billy. Congratulations. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is Commissioner Hart, Good Sportsmanship Month.
Mr. President, is there anybody here, or do I just read the proclamation? Or?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for recognizing this March as Good Sportsmanship Month in Calvert County, as is also recognized by the state of Maryland. This year has proved to be a trying time for all of us, for sure, but the support of good sportsmanship has never been more important. Good sportsmanship fosters the development of positive characteristics for physical fitness and positive personal growth, while developing crucial life skills for our youth. This year, in honor of Good Sportsmanship Month, Calvert County Parks and Recreation would like to recognize the players and coaches of the county's 4 high school golf teams. There are 7 members of the Calvert High School team coached by Mr. Sean Bannon and assisted by Mr. Glenn Libby. There are 5 members of the Patuxent High School team coached by Mr. Chris Fink and assisted by Mr. James Brown. There are 13 members of the Huntingtown High School team coached by Mr. John McGuffin and assisted by Mr. Joe Bunn. And there are 17 members of the Northern High School team coached by Mr. Clayton Lewis. All members of these teams have demonstrated the hallmarks of good sportsmanship: respect, fairness, integrity, responsibility, and perseverance in their ability to collectively overcome obstacles put forth to them by the COVID-19 pandemic. Ongoing restrictions on sports activities left all 4 teams with the Chesapeake Hills Golf Course as the only location able to be utilized for all matches and practices this season. Instead of vying for the ideal schedule for each individual team, these rival teams have shown respect and integrity and worked together to create and manage a series of complex schedules to ensure fair practice and match time for all teams. Coaches and players are on the course each day sharpening their skills and demonstrating their ability to persevere even in less than ideal conditions. It is for their collective response and commitment that we chose to recognize them as examples of good sportsmanship within our county. Thank you.
I think
Mr.
you're supposed to lead the
President?
clap.
Yeah, I think so.
think so, yeah.
And Mr. President, before I read this, and to kind of echo what Brian said, you know, I love sports, and I tell you, as much as I value education, I think it's just as important. You know, and this right here, you remember when you're a kid, they're like, you know, it's not if you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Sometimes it gets lost in parents. You know, when you know, parents are just so geared up to win. You know, my son the other day, he's playing and he's like all frustrated. And I'm like, what's the point, Zach, if you're not having a good time? You know? And I'm like, all these, it's so cool. So many kids he has played with from all around the county. He will play on different teams. You know, every year it's like a shuffling of the deck, and you're playing with this one and that one, and the friendship and the bond there. And I tell you, it's such a character building situation in sports, and not even just sport. I mean, and I don't mean to exclude anybody that if you're anything competitive, whether it's a debate team or anything, It's just that it really is, at the end of the day, it's how you play the game, no matter what it is. And I think it's great that there's an emphasis put on that all the time. Because I think as parents, we're the worst. It's like we make it crazy sometimes, and I love when I walk on these fields, there's signs, hey, let kids play and let's parents watch, and I'm going to read this here real quick. And it says, whereas State of Maryland and Calvert County recognize that sports are a major social force that influences American culture, Maryland and Calvert County families. And whereas being involved in sports, including coaches, players, and fans at all levels, should promote good sportsmanship and foster the development of positive characteristics for physical fitness and positive personal growth. And whereas elements of sportsmanship reflect crucial life skills that will help players thrive throughout their education. A strong sense of character and collaboration can also prepare them for the workplace. And whereas sportsmanship can combat bullying, promote inclusion by providing a safe, healthy environment where players value respect, fairness, integrity, responsibility, and perseverance. And whereas fostering a commitment to these qualities on the playing field can prevent harassment and reduce incidents of concussions and other injuries. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Calvert County Commissioners that March is recognized as Good Sportsmanship Month in Calvert County, Maryland, given under our hands and sealed this 23rd day of March 2021, signed by all 5 commissioners. Oh, okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Happy birthday again, Brian.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is the consent items. Commissioner Hart?
So, Mr. President, you want to just read one, and then we'll consider just read all 3 lines?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, sir. So,
What? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Commissioner Hart.
It's okay. I apologize, Commissioner.
That's okay.
Good morning, Linda Vassallo.
You
You have
were busy.
one appointment today for the Employee Recognition Committee. It's somebody that you know is a hard worker. It's Ashley Staples Reed, and the committee's recommended appointment. Following this, you'll have 2 more vacancies to be filled.
So we have a recommendation to appoint Ashley Staples Reed to the Employee Recognition Committee.
So
Chair,
moved.
second?
Have a motion and a second that we appoint Ashley Staples Reed to the Employee Recognition Committee. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. I'm sorry. Now, Commissioner Hart.
Okay, Mr. President, I hope I'm doing this correctly. So there's an award recommendation for ITB 2021-034 for aggregate materials. An award recommendation RFP 2021-037 on all-call architectural and engineering services. An award recommendation for RFP 2021-026 personal property tax collection services.
Perfect. So, without objection, those items will be adopted. Hearing no objection, those items are adopted.
Okay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is new business. Item 1, Director Nizal.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'll go ahead and read the memo. Background: Calvert County Parks and Recreation takes pride in communication efforts. As a part of the ongoing accreditation process with the Commission on Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies, CAPRA, a policy on staff's role in educating and informing the public on laws, ordinances, rules, regulations, and policies is required as a best practices standard for parks and recreation agencies nationwide. Currently, CCPR does not have an approved policy on staff's role in educating and informing the public on laws, ordinances, rules, regulations, and policies. Discussion. According to CAPRA, the agency staff shall participate in educating and informing the public on laws, ordinances, rules, regulations, and policies that apply to parks and recreation areas and facilities. This role shall be established through policy directives. This is a standalone policy and not part of the Parks and Recreation chapter of the county code. It would be adopted by the Board of County Commissioners via resolution with no public hearing required. No fiscal impact, and conclusion recommendation, staff recommends the BOCC approve the communicating park rules policy and sign the related resolution. I'll answer any questions that you may have on this.
Any questions? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we adopt the communicating park rules policy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Next, Director Nozal.
Okay, the next one item we have is for the volunteer policy, and I'll go ahead and read that memo as well. Background, the proposed volunteer policy is to establish a volunteer program to effectively enable community involvement in the implementation of the Calvert County Parks and Recreation's programming, facilities, and operations. Volunteers are essential to the productivity, efficiency, and cost-effectiveness of operations. Volunteers may assist the department in meeting the ever-increasing service needs and demands and to maintain a high standard of quality for CCPR. Discussion. This policy applies to CCPR to ensure the safety and well-being of employees, volunteers, program participants, and the public by establishing policies and procedures of a department-wide volunteer program. Written procedures will assure volunteer opportunities and duties are developed, volunteers are suitably screened and trained, supervision is appropriate to assign duties, and discussion with volunteers regarding conduct, safety, and liability to the county is documented. Calvert County will follow all local, state, and federal laws regarding volunteers. Fiscal impact, unknown. According to the independent sector, volunteers in the state of Maryland provide an in-kind value of $29.51 per hour, which accounts for the average salary, benefit, and other costs afforded to a paid employee. Conclusion recommendation, staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the volunteer policy and sign the related resolution.
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions?
Nope.
Seeing none,
Move to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
have a motion and a second to approve the volunteer policy and sign the related resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Director Nozal.
And next one, we have a memorandum of agreement with the Long Beach Community Association. Background, a living shoreline project has been designed to restore and stabilize the shoreline on the north end of Flag Ponds Nature Park. The Board of County Commissioners have received a no-interest loan from the state of Maryland to fund the design and construction of the project. This project is adjacent to the Long Beach Community Association, or LBCA. When the project goes out to bid, there will be an option to access the construction site by land or by water. If by land, the ingress and egress will include a portion of Long Beach Road that is owned and maintained by the LBCA. Staff has discussed this with the LBCA board. They were receptive to entering into a memorandum of agreement regarding the use of the road and the expectation that the county and our contractors will be responsible for returning the road to pre-construction conditions. This project will go out to bid after the agreement is approved by the BOCC. Fiscal impact. Funding for this project has been allocated in the Flag Ponds Architectural Engineering Capital Project Account 4453-45005. Conclusion recommendation. Staff recommends that the BOCC authorize the board president to sign the memorandum of agreement. Any questions on this
I'm glad
item?
to see that being, I love that beach. There's so many great beaches. I spent so much time there as a kid. I'm glad that we're in a situation in this county to try to keep everything, pristine as best as possible.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to authorize the board president to sign the memorandum of agreement. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Director Nizal.
Okay, one more. This item is fees for youth day camps at Kings Landing Park. Background: Parks and Recreation Revenue and Fee Policy and associated Revenue and Fee Manual were adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on October 29, 2019. The manual provides a fee schedule that is reviewed and updated, if necessary, annually by the Board of County Commissioners. The 2021 fee schedule was approved by the board on June 9, 2020. Kings Landing Park has traditionally been the host of youth group day camps, including the Boy Scouts and Calvert Hospice. Prior to the adoption of this policy, these two groups were charged fees that are not consistent with the approved manual. The policy was approved after these camps were scheduled in 2019, and due to the coronavirus pandemic, the camps in 2020 were canceled. These groups are now planning for 2021, and the fees in the manual do not address these camps. Discussion: based on the policy's tier structure, camp should be considered a Tier 2 program where the department would expect a partial cost recovery. These services generally represent a basic level of leisure opportunity available to all residents that contribute to the quality of life in our community. Rather than charge individually for services used each day, staff proposes a fee for youth group multi-day camps to include a rate of $1 per day camp participant per day. Also proposed is specific youth group multi-day camps rental fee for use of Wisner Hall of $500 through the duration of the camp, plus a $100 deposit. Fiscal impact: camps that are based out of Kings Landing Park generate approximately $1,700 in revenue to the county's general fund. If the full fee were charged, it is likely that no camp would use Kings Landing Park. Conclusion recommendation: staff recommends that the board approve the suggested fees and direct staff to add to the current 2021 fee schedule for Parks and Recreation Services. Any questions on this item?
Shannon, have you seen anybody that this is gonna disrupt their plans of doing what they would normally do? Is it seem pretty smooth?
We're not gonna get 100 phone calls, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's only good for 3 presentations. She's on.
Exactly. She's over her
Right.
limit.
Yeah.
Timed out.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Apparently not.
Need to have a policy on microphones, maybe.
Okay, am I back on?
There you go.
Okay. Okay, to answer that question, for the camps that use this facility, this actually makes the cost of the program more affordable than what we currently have in the fee schedule. So this is going to be able to allow more camps to be able to use the park than are currently based on the current fee schedule we have in place. So this makes it more affordable and more encompassing of more groups being able to use the facility.
Good.
Are the camps for one day?
These camps usually last for up to a week, so 3 to 5 days, but usually they're about a week long. Day
And
summer camps.
Have we been charging $500 for the hall?
So what we do now in our fee schedule is we have the rate of $500 per day. Because 2020, all the camps were canceled due to
Right.
the coronavirus, we haven't had any summer camps since that time, since the fee schedule went into place. So now that the fee schedule is in place and now camps are looking to come back, we wanted to make sure that we were being equitable and providing services that were still feasible in these nonprofit budgets.
So normally it would take them 3 days to have their thing. That would be $1,500. Now it's $500.
Correct.
Okay, good. I'm good with that.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Motion to approve, right?
Second?
Have a motion and a second to approve the suggested fee and to direct staff to add to the current 2021 fee schedule for Parks and Recreation Services. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Director.
Thank you, Shannon.
You know, I was thinking, Mark, maybe the commissioners should have a Motorola. Phone.
I tried to keep that one. They snatched it right
Yeah,
out of me.
things are nice.
I want to be in charge.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda, new business item 5, Commissioner McConkey.
Commissioner, okay, let's see here. It's just a request for third amendment of purchase and sale agreement.
do we have,
I thought
we have
Kelly-
Kelly, we
I
have
think
Kelly
Kelly
online.
Slagle's supposed to read it.
Sorry, wrong Kelly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Plus, she's a lot prettier than me.
Ah,
Thank you, Commissioners. I am one, and I will go ahead and read the agenda. I'm sorry, read the memo. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. I don't know if you guys are. I just want to make sure.
Yep,
just a
you're
little
good.
bit.
What?
Okay.
No, I didn't hear a thing.
I'll turn my volume down a little bit, see if that helps. Okay, background. March 10th, 2020, the Board of County Commissioners approved the purchase and sales agreement with Armory Square LLC and Fox Run Professional Center LLC for acquisition by the county, tax map 24, grid 3, parcel 769, with the premise address of Steeplechase Drive, and the properties considered for transfer by the county: 1, tax map 24, grid 10, parcel 715, with the premise address of 170 Armory Road, and 2, tax map 24, grid 10, parcel 477, with a premise address of 435 North Solomon's Island Road. Discussion. In accordance with Section 6 of the Second Amendment of the Purchase and Sales Agreement, the expiration date for the purchaser's inspection period related to Armory Square project dated March 1st, 2021. To allow additional time for satisfactory to address the 2 remaining items, the Department of Economic Development is requesting a third amendment to the March 10th, 2020 Purchase and Sales Agreement to extend the purchaser's inspection period to May 23rd, 2021, and to amend Section 13A, which extends the deadline for final site approval to March 24th, 2022, and closing date to the date no later than August 22nd, 2022. Staff has reviewed the attached third amendment to the purchase and sales agreement provided by Armory Square LLC. Fiscal impact. The proposed amendment has no fiscal impact on the purchase price to be paid to the Board of County Commissioners of $3,871,400 and a sum of $225,671, which represents the fair market value of the Steeplechase property, will still be credited to the purchase price at closing. I recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve the third amendment to the purchase and sales agreement as presented and authorize the board president to sign on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. And I'll take any questions that you have.
I don't see any questions, Kelly. So, Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second that we approve the third amendment of the purchase and sale agreement as presented and authorize the board president to sign on behalf of the BOCC. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We might want to put the person's last name on there in the future.
Yeah, we have too many
He
Kellys.
kind of stunned me, but I was prepared.
Good job. Next item on the agenda, item number 7, Department of Community Resources. And I think we have someone coming.
Who do we have?
That would be me. Good morning, Commissioners. Sandy Wobbleton, Transportation
morning.
Division
Morning,
Chief. How are
Sandy.
you?
Good.
Okay, I have the memo. Background. Calvert County is submitting grant applications to the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Transit Administration, MDOT, MTA, for FY 2022 funding. The application includes requests for operational and capital funds from Section 5311 of the Public Transportation Program Capital Program. Capital funds are used to purchase replacement buses, provide preventive maintenance, and replace electronic fare box equipment. Discussion. Request to MDOT, MTA for federal and/or state operational and capital funds total $1,593,127,000. An overview of the operational capital request used to assist in funding the county's transportation systems are outlined below in the memo. Section 5311 and 5307 funding equals $924,930. Special Transportation Assistance Program, or the STEP program, is $127,000. $3. The American Disability Act ADA request is $123,000. Rideshare Commuter Assistance Program is $8,730. And then capital funds are $409,464 for a total of $1,593,127. Fiscal impact. The county's operational and capital local match is $516,116, which is already budgeted in the general fund. Capital funds support the cost of the salary and fringe benefits for the 3 transportation office staff and cover 10% of the cost for capital expenses. Conclusion and recommendation. It is requested the Board of County Commissioners approve and authorize the board president to sign the grant request as submitted and adopt the resolution authorizing application. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I don't see any. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second to approve and authorize the board president to sign the grant request as submitted and adopt the resolution authorizing application. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Next item on the agenda is the Office of the County Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Willis, County Administrator. I bring before you today a memo for the creation of the Veteran Affairs Commission. Background: the Board of County Commissioners desires to continue to take responsible steps to ensure that the controllable aspects of support and services available for veterans are positive and impactful. Discussion: at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners, staff provide guidance and information in order to establish a Veteran Affairs Commission that will represent Calvert County's veterans. As a result, a resolution creating the Veteran Affairs Commission has been drafted. The commission shall serve in an advisory capacity to the Board of County Commissioners on programs, policies, and initiatives affecting the lives of Calvert County veterans. The commission shall achieve this by recruiting a diverse commission of veterans who will meet monthly and provide, at minimum, an annual report to the Board of County Commissioners. There's no fiscal impact. Conclusion recommendation. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the creation of the Veterans Affairs Commission, sign the resolution creating the commission, direct the board's executive administrative aide to advertise for potential veteran members to apply, and assign the Department of Community Resources to support the Veterans Affairs Commission. Your pleasure, gentlemen.
Any questions?
I would just add to what he said, how it's going to consist of the 9 members. 1 member will be an owner or operator of a local business. 1 member shall be an educator or educational administrator. There will be 3 at-large members, and 4 members shall be members of the American Legion within Calvert County, and 1 member from each of the following legions. So I think that's helpful for people to know when they apply for these positions, that it's not just all from the county.
Correct, Commissioner, and there are other aspects of this that really reach out to the community, even at the state level. We're reaching out to the higher education, we're reaching out to state level veterans advisory boards, and also when the board is created, when the commission is created, they can also look for a non-voting member, but somebody that can come in and really provide that outside guidance that we may not otherwise get. So we, just so that we and the public know that we have looked at multiple counties around the state, and we have modeled ours after them, but really developed it so that it's specific to Calvert County and reaches out to our veterans here. And veteran commissions communicate with one another, so I think we've got the right mix of this. I would like to give some shout out to Commissioner Hutchins, who is with us here as well. He put some thought into this, as did the board as a whole, but I think that this is a right move for our veterans.
I think it's long overdue. I mean, especially when, number one, the history of military in this county, but we got Pax River on one side, you got Andrews up there. I mean, this Calvert County has so been integral with the military and so many residents. I just think it's long overdue. I'm glad that that this is going forward.
Any other questions?
Just one brief comment as well. I know at the Tri-County Council level, if we could take some consideration to coordinate communications with their VRAC. I know Commissioner President Guy is in charge of that. He's the chair. So just wanted to inject that.
And Commissioner Williams, to that point, one of the areas that we will cover once the commission is established, we'll sit down with them and really kind of pick their brain on what they want to do, but that particular thought was brought to our attention as well, so we plan to do that immediately.
Very good. Very good. That's all.
Good deal. You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second to approve the creation of the Veterans Affairs Commission, to sign the resolution creating the commission, direct the board's executive administrative aide to advertise for potential veteran members to apply, and assign the Department of Community Resources to support the commission. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner.
you. Next item on the agenda is our work session from Department of Planning and Zoning, Director Cook.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Mary Beth Cook, Director of Planning and Zoning. We're with you today to present the Consolidated Transportation Program 2020 Transportation Priorities. Every year, the Board of County Commissioners sends 2 letters to the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation outlining the county's transportation priorities. One as a regional letter through Tri-County Council of Southern Maryland, and one individually as a county. This is part of our annual cycle, occurring both at state and the county levels, to determine which transportation projects throughout the state, both major and minor, will be funded or moved further along. By April 1st of each year, counties determine their priorities, prepare local and regional priority letters, and submit them to the state for state budget deliberations over the summer. In September, MDOT publishes a draft Consolidation Transportation Program, CTP, covering the next fiscal years, which would be FY21 through FY26. In the fall, the Secretary of Transportation, Greg Slater, along with representatives from the various transportation units, will tour Maryland's 23 counties and Baltimore City to present the proposed budget and discuss highlights of the proposed projects. The Board of County Commissioners has the opportunity to discuss transportation issues and respond to the presented materials at that time. Since Tamara's going to cover a lot of the discussion in her presentation, I'm going to turn it over to her to talk about our priorities.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tamara Blake Wallace, Principal Planner. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. So, the last few years, our priorities for highways have been the Governor Thomas Johnson Bridge and Maryland 24, the Maryland 231 corridor improvements, and the Maryland 24, Maryland 765 Industry Lane to north of Stokely Road, road improvements through Prince Frederick. Our safety priorities have been Maryland 261, which included North Beach, 9th Street to Anne Arundel County line, and that is currently under construction. The Maryland 231 corridor, the Maryland 261 at Beach Drive, and Maryland 4 in Anne Arundel County. Our transit priorities have been the transit transfer station and their service expansion. Our community safety and enhancement program has included the Safe Routes to School, Richfield Station intersection, and the Lusby Town Center streetscape. So this year, with doing the priority letter, the Regional Infrastructure Advisory Committee has been in close contact with MDOT, trying to figure out how we can get funding for some of our projects. Because as you know, last year we didn't get any funding other than to finish up the widening through Prince Frederick between 2-4 from Commerce Lane to Fox Run. So in that discussion with MDOT, they advised us that due to federal and state budget constraints, our big ticket items such as the Thomas Johnson Bridge, Maryland 231 corridor improvements, and the 24 Prince Frederick widening north of Stokely Road are being overlooked because the funding for them is just so large. They suggested that we look at some of our smaller projects because with that, when we put those big ticket items up front, the smaller projects that we have are getting lost in the project. They just don't go any further. So they recommended that we put more emphasis on smaller projects which support the larger or the longer term projects.
But you know what's funny is they'll turn around and say that, and you remember, was it over the summer? They said they didn't even have enough money to pick up the trash or cut the grass evenly. You know, so turn around and tell us, really? I know, it's
It's challenging.
yes, that's the word, yes.
It's challenging.
Yep.
So what they suggested to us that the MDOT funding structure should be considered. There are several pots that this money comes out of. So they told us to take a look at everything. They strongly discouraged us in listing the mega projects as our top priority project. They recommended, of course, like I said, the emphasis on the smaller projects that support the larger and longer term projects, and identify our long-term goals and priorities, and then consider strategies related to project phasing. So what we sat down with DPW, we sat down with Tri-County, and we've been discussing all of our options to see how we could go about this. So what we did, we looked at our minor projects, and we looked at projects that could support some of our top priorities, which one is 231. So we came up with safety preservation highway safety projects, which included on Maryland 231, Prince Frederick Boulevard to Helena Drive, and that's putting two-way left turn lane, running lane in. Maryland 231, the Stafford Road intersection for a study for the realignment. And then the Maryland 231 Adelina intersection, that left turn lane. So that would support some of our goals for 231 projects. So we figure if we get some of those in, then we'll be more apt to later on when more funding comes to get other projects on 231.
So it makes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, excuse me for a minute, but I thought that the previous year, State Highway told us they were gonna do the two-way left turn lane at Prince Frederick Boulevard to Helena Drive, and they were gonna do the realignment at Adelina Road, and then they came back later and said, we don't have any money to do that.
Yes.
But
You're
now they're
correct.
telling you to ask for money to do that.
Well, we're putting it back on the list because we feel
they
that
didn't
it's a
tell you to
priority.
do.
No, these are the projects that we're looking at that we feel will support them. And this year, we're looking at a new pot, so we're hoping that we'll be able to, get this funding this year.
So this will be fiscal '22 projects?
Yes.
Yes.
I think you put it on there, but I don't think you back off the big ticket stuff, because you know what they turn around and say? Oh, well,
You took it off the
you
list?
took it off the list, right?
We
How
have
important
not
is it?
taken it off the list. What we did was we just kind of rearranged our priorities, and in the letter to Secretary Slater, we did mention that 231, the Thomas Johnson Bridge, and all of our number one priorities still remain our priorities, number one priorities, but we do understand that there are funding restraints that the federal government is facing. So in that, we're asking to look at some of our smaller projects so that we at least get some funding for something. If we put more emphasis, what they're saying, on those larger projects, we may not get anything.
Well, and what's funny is, they bring up, well, the condition of the bridge, safety-wise. They think of like it falling into the river. And that's not always the thing. An accident on that bridge is never good. There's nowhere to go. So that part always gets left out of the equation, is how dangerous it is just plain that there's no room for bad weather or anything. But, yeah, that's what they say, But like I say, I think, like I say, obviously we put all that on there anyway, but you know what I'm expecting from them? Zero. But I know if you don't ask, you don't get. But so far since I've been here, I don't know. Steve, go back your memory. Do you remember ever seeing anything?
Well, and let's just focus on the now,
Yeah.
but from the past,
And I hate being so negative, but we've all stood in that line to walk in the room all like cattle. We walk in there and go, hey, great seeing you guys. We don't have any money, but it was great seeing you. You know, and it's just, you know, and they do all this. They spend all this money in this and all this back and forth stuff. It's like, really, just tell us something you will fund.
Well, and that's what they were telling us at the meeting that we had with them. I mean, they were very frank with us. Basically, they're saying if they start off with looking at our priorities, and our priorities are the Thomas Johnson Bridge and those mega ticket items, they're just going to put our letter aside. So we're trying our best.
At least they were honest about it. They've probably been doing it for 20 years. At least this time they told you.
We're trying our best to try to get some funding in so that we can support some of those larger ticket items, so that when they do get more funding, we're more able to say, hey, you've done these improvements, look at this project again, and to see if we can go forward with trying to get more out of those larger ticket items in the future.
So is there a dollar amount that, how do you classify a minor from a major project? Is it a dollar amount, or what is that? How's that?
Under 5 million
Okay.
is considered
Minor.
Get you a
and
stop sign.
just to keep it in perspective, it's just like, I had a gentleman in St. Leonard tell me about the oak tree on the corner of Dares Beach Road. It received 20 years extra life because that's how long it took to get the next phase of construction money from the state of Maryland.
That's true,
It was
though.
about 20 years.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder,
no.
but we, in our REAC meeting, emulating Garrett County was what
Yes.
was suggested. And in essence, you're yes, go on, please, Madam.
And that's what
Sorry.
they suggested to us, to take a look at some of the counties whose priority letters were working. So in REAC, we sat down, we discussed them, St. Mary's, Charles County, PG County. We sat down, we looked at those priority letters, and from those priority letters, that's how we designed our letter, putting some of our minor projects up front to try to get that funding, but also indicating what our top priorities are, more toward the end of the letter.
So we would frame up the letter that, you know, our top priorities remain ABC.
Yes.
We understand the financial situation the state is in, so what we would like to do is highlight these minor projects that we would hope receive some funding.
Yes, that's what we did with
Yeah.
this letter.
Good.
So,
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
we go through this drill here for the third year now.
Every year.
The priorities remain the same. There's sub-elements within those priorities that are doable level. And the one thing that we have to focus on as a region is this tri-county area, which is an economic triangle. And those highways that service that, 231 being certainly one of them, the connector there at the Thomas Johnson Bridge, also over on Route 5 there and 235, I'm sure that's another piece of it. But these are sub-elements that we need to focus on, not giving up, obviously, on the broader picture of the highway needs that we have as a triangle, a commerce triangle in a tri-county area. So I think that's the approach that is appropriate to take. And then we depend heavily, at least we used to when I was in the House, we carried highway projects as a delegation as part of our endeavor in the particular county and that we were in. So I think the approach is doable there in the way it's being presented.
Okay.
So these are our other minor projects. The transit projects were the dispatch software and the service expansion for our transportation service in the county, and then our community enhancement safety programs, which are our safe routes to school, Richfield Station intersection, and the Lesby Town Center streetscape. And the Lesby Town Center streetscape, we're also starting in the MPO, the Complete Streets program. So some of that is being taken care of with our Complete Streets program. So, and then lastly, we've discussed the priority list, and basically moving forward is at your discretion how you would like to frame your letter. We can either go forward with the letter as is, or if you have changes you want me to do, we can go forward with those.
My opinion, please defer to your wisdom and judgment.
Same.
Yeah, we sort of talked about how to frame the letter up, and so we don't lose.
Right.
Definitely not to lose our
Because that's,
our
you
time.
know, that's what they're, you know, what they say, oh, well, they didn't ask. And, you know, it's the one time you don't ask is, you know, and, I mean,
Yeah, attached was my draft letter.
The letter's appropriately framed, I think. It
Yes.
presents them in a proper order. There's one thing we need to continue to emphasize locally in concert with Charles County, and that's the 231 corridor as far as enforcement, traffic enforcement, because it is the most dangerous 12 miles, in my opinion, of any road in the Tri-County area. And the enforcement is a key piece of this, and we should make that, while not known to the state highway, known to the state police and the sheriff's department.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchins. I guess I don't fully understand dispatch software, but is getting
That
the tech,
dispatch software is for transportation.
it's for the bus projects, for the bus transportation
For our
system.
transportation
Yes.
system.
Okay. I guess the question I have is, you know, we've asked State Highway a few times about timing lights in Prince Frederick, and they tell us that technology is not in place to do that. Have we thought about putting a request in to get that technology implemented through Prince Frederick so we can time those lights?
The lights, from what I understand, have been timed through Prince Frederick, but if you're talking about smart technology,
Yes.
through that, we can definitely try to put that on the list. I know there is an upcoming discussion about some of the smart technology that I will be attending, so we will discuss that. The county administrator and I have, Administrator Willis, we have a meeting with Tri-County tomorrow to try to discuss the regional transportation letter, so we can bring all those things up as we're discussing.
It is.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Hutchins?
again, and I just recently spoke again with Director Kelly Slagle. The traffic light that will go in at the potential location development there at Armory Square will be another traffic light in that series. That series of road from Stokely all the way down to 231 intersection sets itself up for a perfect example of synchronization. And so I think we continue to work that on multiple fronts with the delegation, with Tri-County Council, with our own discussions with State Highway, and being able to push that forward in conjunction with the work that will probably be forthcoming for that traffic light at Armory Square.
Yeah, we should look trying to get that on the list, because that would greatly help the flow through Prince Frederick, because it's very frustrating to sit at one light and move 500 yards and stop at the next one, and move 500 yards and stop at the next one. So
Okay, we will discuss that. We can put that on the list also.
I don't know what smart technology involves, but we should at least examine that and have some discussions with the state.
And we are limited right now to fiber optics throughout the county, so I know a part of that is what is needed, but there is a broadband committee and whatnot forming to kind of look at those things,
So I thought that was already down Route 4 to the base.
It's down.
Commissioners, Mark Willis, County Administrator. So with the smart technology that we're talking about, having attended national level discussion on that, and then asking to be a pilot program for the state, the issue is that the smart technology is so accurate that it's literally all day long. It counts how long it takes traffic to get through that intersection, but it does no good unless it is able to talk to every single light in the series. And we asked if we could have Prince Frederick alone as that pilot, and we were told that at that time that it didn't make any sense, because it's such a small area that if you take the light in Huntingtown and you let all that traffic come down, then it wouldn't work. But I agree. I think we keep pushing the idea until they let us use some type of program to see if it works. The problem was that at the time, the lights that existed did not have the capability to receive the smart technology. And I think every time we do a program, we get closer to that. So we certainly put it on there, and I think that we talk also Tri-County, but we have pushed that for us.
Yeah, because when we get done, we're gonna have 6 traffic lights there in a mile.
Yeah. What
And-
what a better spot. I mean, especially, you know,
Right.
And see, right now, they can time them themselves. They can synchronize them physically, but the smart technology would do it itself, and that's what we're looking for.
Right, right. So I don't know what it would cost, but at least it's worth investigation, and we look at that as something to put on the list.
that is a question too, because, you know, would we be allowed to do it ourselves? So many times they say no, we can't touch their road, but if the cost isn't that astronomical,
Yeah.
especially to free up traffic in that little corridor there.
And it's also something that we can, we have quarterly meetings with SHA, so it's something that we can bring up to them in the quarterly meeting and ask those questions. I think we possibly have one coming up soon.
Good, good.
Well, you can use the example of Martin Luther King Avenue in Baltimore City, and also in Ocean City, the main drag going through Ocean City. When you're going into Baltimore to the state office building, you can hit one of those lights green and pretty much run the whole avenue to the state office building. So that, you know, it is doable stuff in a confined area.
Works in Ocean City, and that's about a 5-mile stretch.
Yep.
Every light turns green.
Yeah,
So,
almost every block.
anything else?
No, that's it.
And you need some direction on the letter.
Yes.
So they just need to know that we approve the priority list, and we've sort of talked about a framework for the letter, so they've
Yes,
got that
the
direction.
letter that I've given you, and we'll add this pilot program on here for the synchronization of lights. And I'll revise our letter and get that back over to you. If you're satisfied with the structure as it is now, then we'll just add that and go forward.
I just want to make sure we have the bridge on there and, you know, just as normal.
It is
you
in
know.
there.
Yep. So.
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Good.
motion?
Need a motion or just
Yes,
consensus?
There's a request for, sorry, Commissioners, John Norris, County Attorney. There is a request for a motion to approve the letter as was stated.
Staff doesn't trust us shaking their heads.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second that we adopt the transportation priorities, and we finalize that list and prepare a letter to go to the Tri-County Council and a cover letter to the Maryland Department of Transportation conveying the board's priorities. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
On a separate issue, unrelated, I've received your transportation study that you sent me. I appreciate that. It was dated 2011. Is that the most recent state highway?
We have been still searching. We think we may have come across something else. I also have another call into the state. But we were looking back through some of the comprehensive plans information that we did, and we think we may have found some updated information. So I will take a look at that and send that over to you.
Because if 2011 is the most recent state highway study we have of the Prince Rey corridor, I believe we should request an update because a lot of things have changed.
Mr. President, I think when we started in 2019, the fall of 2019, we got a transportation assessment from a contractor in planning for the town center master plans, as well as State Highway did a small segment of 231 in the fall of 2018, from Barstow all the way to Prince Frederick, I believe.
Yes, that did occur, but if you look at the 2011 state highway study and the study that was done by the transportation consultant we have, they are very different.
And we will have.
I understand that, but at least there's the consultants there to look at and to proffer.
And we have invited the consultant down for a discussion with the commissioners on that.
Because the 2011 study, under the best-case scenario in 2035, still has 3 intersections in Prince Redick that fail. And that's including completion of all the loop roads, an underpass, and I don't even know what else is on that list. And that underpass is not gonna happen in my lifetime. And that study does not take into account the increase in the size of Prince Rorick that was just done in the comprehensive plan. So there's been a lot of changes since 2011.
There have been a lot of changes, and there were intersections that were looked at during the transportation program that the consultant did studies on, and I think it was basically almost every intersection in Prince Frederick. So he will be forward to talk with you about those.
Whereas according to the state highway scenario where those projects, Loop Road and underpasses were not done, every intersection in Prince Frederick fails, based on 2011 data. So it's important that we get that updated by state highway.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have another work session, Department of Community Resources. I think we're gonna get an update on a new library.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Carrie Wilson, Executive Director of Calvert Library. Good to see you all.
You too.
So, background. Construction on the Twin Beaches Library is slated to start in the fall of 2021. Since the CIP project budget was adopted 2 years ago, estimates for Twin Beaches Library construction costs have increased by about 5% per year. Normally, the Department of Finance estimates this escalation at 3.5%. However, pandemic-related cost increases for lumber, steel, and labor shortages have impacted this norm. Discussion. The original project was budgeted at 16,000 square feet. However, design requirements for the parcel, such as setbacks, require more vertical space, resulting in an 18,000 square foot facility. The library has worked with the architect Collmore to reduce the costs and the square footage. However, new construction estimates include more accurate construction costs, and include the price of labor and supplies, changes to the stairwell ductwork addressed in the review process with the fire marshal. Current estimates show projections up by almost $770,000. $690,000 of that is for construction, and $80,000 is for fire safety updates. An additional $230,000 in contingency to cover other possible costs. Fiscal impact. The library seeks to increase the capital grant request to the state by $1 million for FY23 to account for increased construction costs. Conclusion and recommendation. The library requests an update to the FY22 Twin Beaches Library CIP for FY23 and concurrence on the funding request to the state, as this project serves a vital support to public education and economic growth in the northeast region of Calvert County. CJ Jones, project supervisor, is here, and Jennifer Moreland is on via Teams, as is, I think, Jeffrey Lewis, our board president. But we'll go through our presentation here for you. Thank you. So purpose is to update you on these cost estimates for the new Calvert Library Twin Beaches branch and to garner your support for subsequent changes to the CIP. So here you'll see a rendering of the new library. When the 50% came back, we did make some changes to keep it in the cost estimate, but it's turning into a really beautiful facility. So it'll have a view of the bay there to the east. First floor, second floor, and parking underneath the building. But I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, why do you design these buildings with all that space?
All that space. I know, we did it in Prince Frederick and don't know why we did it there, and here we are again.
So why are we doing it?
Some of that is because an architect designs it, and some
So
of it
who
is
does the
because
architect work for?
he works for us. But it's so pretty, buddy.
But it's so
So
much
the-
wasted space.
It'd be nice to have some outside area with
Wait for it.
the enclosed, with a roof. That way,
Yeah.
people could be sitting outside on a beautiful day.
Yes, indeed. So, parking underneath the building.
Uh-huh.
First floor, there's a little bit of what we're calling the porch that's there on the right, with some outside tables. That's going to be underneath the second floor. So there'll be a little bit of outdoor seating on that first floor outside of the living room area. And then here's the space that you're talking about. There is a terrace on the second floor. that looks out to the bay.
The rooftop would have been nice.
Can't because they got it
The
like
roof
on
is
mountain
on the,
Yeah.
slope.
Well,
the roof is.
If you had a
3 foot
flat
tall.
roof, you could have had a nice,
Yeah, but you know what happens to flat roofs? Bad things happen to flat roofs.
They leak
Yeah.
over time.
Well,
So we've got a butterfly roof that's gonna do a good job of managing stormwater.
yeah.
my concern with the size is North Beach is so tight as it is.
Yeah. Which is why we had to go up instead of out.
You know, so,
And flooding too, so.
yes, it's got, of course, it's gotta be on stilts, so I mean, it's,
So this parking area is gonna be,
Would that
designed and
garage
built.
flood by any chance?
sure.
Yeah.
So
It's
you'd have
designed
to
for
have a
that.
plan in place to tell people to move their cars in case of a storm.
So has the architect kind of gone through some of this stuff? I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
So can you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit on why it went from 16 to 18,000 square feet?
Yeah, so if we look at the, if you
Should
just,
have put a Starbucks in there.
well, there is a cafe space. We're right now just planning for vending.
Yeah,
I didn't really want to get into having to manage a
I know.
vendor.
That would just
but
draw a lot of people would
Possibility
like
is
that, yeah.
there. Yeah.
Create
We
some
didn't want
cash
to
flow.
compete with Sweet Sue's.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good local business serving delicious
Starbucks are a
coffee and
liquor
sweets. But you'll see how much the meeting rooms are, I missed that one. We've
Well,
got
if we put a
meeting-
Starbucks in or a liquor store, we could create some cash flow.
There was a proposal for a wine bar early on in
See?
the community meetings.
really?
I think that's an after-hours activity on the terrace.
Really?
There,
That's what I heard.
well, you can see from both of these floor plans, there is very little, there's not really a square foot of space that's not designed in this facility.
So what is the square footprint?
So it's 18,000 enclosed, the terrace is 3,000, and the parking level is 10,000.
So what's that level with the, including the
So
terrace?
this level is probably about 9,
9,000 square feet?
yeah.
Sound right, CJ?
Yeah, thank you. Look over my shoulder. Yeah. We have, the collection that's in this building is about the same size that's in the current facility. The things that have been added in are program rooms for children, a maker space for the community, staff workspace, and of course the meeting rooms here on the first floor. So there's no piece of any of that that would be acceptable to take out and make it worth building the facility, right? We don't want to build something that isn't going to meet the needs of the community, and they've had a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot facility
Well,
for
and that's the thing
26
too,
years
with,
now.
with a footprint of really like 9,000, it's not that big. It's not
No.
like if we were going 18, you
On
know,
one
this way, you could
right.
probably cut back, but
If
yeah, I
it
don't-
had been on a single story, we probably only would have needed 14,000 square feet.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Because I'm visualizing where, by the time you put bathrooms in
Right.
and
Mechanical closets, the
Yeah,
IT server
yeah.
space, janitor
entranceways
closets.
in and out, I mean, I don't know how much you.
Right. We did cut out the original plan when we were at 50% to hit our current budget. We did cut off, there was a larger terrace on the first floor.
Are we saving any money with all these windows?
We cut out, there had been a
Somebody's got to
design
wash 'em.
for,
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm looking, I know, that's how my mind works. I'm thinking, who's cleaning all those?
yeah, we spend about 3,000 a year to clean Prince Frederick's windows.
Really?
We can skip it at Prince Frederick every couple of years, but Twin Beaches will need to be done because
A lot of
they're
salt
gonna
water
get
in
salt
the air.
air, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what's the scale there for the empty space? Just, I'm trying to, it's a pretty picture,
It
but
is a
it's hard to visualize how high is it from the second floor to the peak of that roof?
How you doing, Commissioners? C.J.
Good.
Jones, Department of Public Works Capital Project Supervisor. Each floor from slab to slab is about 14 feet. So you're talking as you look at the front of the building, that front corner is probably about 6 to 8 feet. But you're also going to have ductwork, that you really don't see in that picture, plus hanging lights and stuff like that. So it's not that much of a extra space.
The other reason that I didn't push back on extra space here is because it's already on a really tight little square. And if we built a box on a tight little square, It just would have been kind of a box instead of a destination that we want people to think we're going to the library, and it's a destination in the community. We didn't want it to be,
How many
To look
cars
like
are you
a-
really gonna get underneath there?
CJ 32,
You're gonna get 32 cars?
33 cars.
33.
How do you stop people from parking under there to just go to somewhere else in the town? You don't.
You put up a sign, it's not gonna do a thing.
They can't
Yeah.
read.
No, you don't.
You're really gonna get
You're not
30
gonna be out there with checking everyone?
No, sir. We are not. We're gonna hope that people who are coming for some other reason are also coming to use the library.
So you guys already mapped this out? You're really gonna get 33 cars
Yeah,
under 9,000 square feet?
yep.
Really?
What are you thinking? It should be more or?
Less. You gotta open doors, you gotta have move, room to move a car out. I mean,
When you lay 9,000 square foot out, that's a lot of square footage. You know,
my
when you lay
store's
it out.
4. I mean, I'm in every day and I'm looking at that, like if I doubled it, I mean, it's, I'm thinking, cause, it's not just being able to sit the cars side by side, you have to be able
What
to
about
pull
height?
in
Are you
and-
gonna be able to drive pickup trucks in
Yes.
there and all that?
Yep, we have, one of our staff has a big truck, and we've been assured that she'll be able to park there if she
Mark, what-
wants to.
You might have to
Yeah,
have it.
it's
is it-
all to code.
Commissioners, Mark Willis, County Administrator, the guidelines for these parking spaces are just for like any other parking space required. These are out of the Town Center Master Plans, these are out of the national guidance requirements. I have full faith in what they're doing is going to account for the spaces allowed, or
Man,
they
it'd
wouldn't be able to
nice
put them in
to
there.
get 33 cars there, but I'm thinking to be able
It'll
to
be
pull
tight.
in.
It'll be tight,
Yeah,
just like it is everywhere.
I hear you,
Any
Commissioner.
parking garage.
Yeah, any
is
parking
tight.
garage is tight.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It's gonna work. Been
So,
assured.
your picture had a very
Sorry,
pretty
you can't park on the roof.
background, but remind
You get
me
Mark's
what's
truck in there.
really around the library? There's other buildings?
So
and-
there's a condo to the
Might have been a ticket parking on the roof.
northeast corner.
Okay.
There's a set of condos that's then on the front, on Bay is businesses.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing
That's a
in the
small
lot
Yeah.
directly to the
Yeah.
east of the library. That's currently an empty lot that the town
I
has
think that's
retained
coming.
ownership of. And then you've got the, kind of the visitor center on the boardwalk is
Okay.
directly down Fifth Street from
Okay.
where the library is. Across the street to the south is the gravel lot currently owned by Russo and potentially that development that he's gotten preliminary approval for.
I mean, it looks nice sitting there, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to picture it with the surroundings, and it's gonna look a lot different.
Across the street to
Yeah,
the,
'cause
to the
here
west
it
is
looks
the
like it's all
motorcycle
by
shop.
itself, and
Right,
it's-
it is not.
It's not.
No,
Kerry, Kelly
it's
brings
not.
up a great point.
Hmm.
I get the slant of the roof, but can you imagine a roof, okay, where you can sit up there with your coffee?
A
and read?
nor'easter.
Yeah, you're at the beach.
We
dude.
tried for it. It was gonna,
There's no way to make that happen?
I'm gonna let
That'd be
CJ.
huge.
Yeah. Even if you had to put plexiglass for safety around, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just,
I know.
especially you're
That's
at
what
the
we
beach.
wanted when we first started out, but
There's no way to do that?
An occupiable roof is possible, but again, the cost for that type of roof bumps the budget up quite a bit.
we decided to put the money into the functional parts of the building instead of into the after hours or the coffee.
Because instead of putting a
so-
roof on it, now you're putting a floor.
Right. Essentially
So
becomes another
construction
floor.
costs
Yeah.
How much more are you talking?
double or triple.
We'd have to go back and run the numbers on that.
We decided we were gonna, our terrace
That'd be
is
the
gonna
most
be,
visited library in the state.
Depending on what they can see from it. Not if they put 3-story condos between it and the bay.
That's true.
Yeah,
The
the
only thing we
town,
look at's
the
the back of
town
the
has
building.
wishes for a restaurant there. So hopefully we'll not get taller than the library, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
we're
'cause
hoping
it's
that this
Bellport
terrace
too, if they
retains
don't
its
build-
view.
But God, like I said, can you imagine?
This is where you're gonna sit, you're gonna smuggle your, buddy's gonna smuggle his glass of wine in, you're gonna have coffee. You're gonna sit on this terrace and it's gonna be beautiful.
Well, I mean, to encourage,
then-
I mean, what a great thing to be able to be up top and like, I mean, that's now you're a true destination
Right.
area then.
Well, you're pretty far off the ground here.
Hmm?
CJ, how far off the ground are we on this second
Yeah, but I
floor?
mean, to be able to sit outside,
28 feet.
especially in even like this COVID area, to have more outside area, to be able to sit outside
Yep.
and.
Yeah, this
and,
this terrace puts you about 25, 28 feet off the ground.
So you're essentially on the roof, just not the roof. And we haven't put any furniture into the design package for this, but ideally, if the foundation raises enough money, there'll be some furniture out there as well.
Right, but you're still not outside.
Yes, you are. I'm
The
sorry,
terrace
was that not
is-
clear? Yeah,
the
that
ter-
terrace that looks like
The
a deck.
terrace is outside.
That's
Okay, I'm
outside
pulling the
space.
picture back up again.
Yeah. There's one door from the teen section here on the
How
bottom
many
of this
people does
picture.
it hold, you think?
Oh, 33.
Capacity, capacities,
33 is, no, that's it, that's all you get.
no.
6 foot distancing, you might not get 33.
Right.
How is
CJ,
capacity calculated for exterior
What's the
space?
fire marshal capacity?
I would have to research that answer. I don't know off the top of my head what the fire
Probably
marshal
way more
capacity for
people than any
terrace.
of us would be comfortable
Yeah.
being around right
Okay,
now.
so we don't
It's
have
a
a
lot more
side
30.
shot of that terrace, so I'm seeing it like,
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But I would imagine we can fit 100 people out there for,
Yeah, it looks pretty
for an
good.
after-hours get-together event.
well, that would solve that piece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you'll have that feeling that you're after.
And you're up 25 feet,
And you're
Yeah.
depending on
25.
how tall the condo is in front of it, but you'll be there.
So, as we've discussed, materials costs, like concrete has gone up 656% in the last year. Steel's gone up 526%. Lumber's 284%. Copper's 194%.
Ridiculous,
So
isn't it?
materials costs have skyrocketed.
Ridiculous.
Hopefully, as production begins to ramp up again, some of those costs will come down by the time we're ready to actually purchase those materials. But for now, that's where we're at, labor shortages as well.
So concrete is up 600%? What does a yard of
650.
concrete cost now?
Those numbers are taken off the commodities market. If you go to the commodities market and look over the last year's commodities, that's how much they've gone up over the last year in the commodities market.
600% for a yard of concrete?
Aren't you
Yes, sir.
glad you don't have stock in concrete?
But
So-
it doesn't give a measurement of whether it's a yard or, but it gives you a percentage how much each thing's gone up.
I was gonna say, a yard of concrete used to be $100. If it went up 600%, that means it's $600 and some dollars now for a yard of concrete delivered to your cheese.
That sounds like a showstopper at that point. How can you afford to build a building if the cost?
Exactly.
Well, so maybe I shouldn't have thrown those numbers out. As CJ is saying, those are just commodities costs. Our cost estimate did not go up by 600% for.
He caught my attention when
It
he
caught your
mentioned.
attention though, right?
Yes,
You-
it did.
My point was merely that the costs have gone up considerably for materials. We have made all the considerations for stormwater design,
So what are you projecting the cost to be?
for the building.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 10.1 currently.
French Ferry Firehouse was a steal.
Yeah.
Well, it may change too in the future as our capacity as a country begins to build back up as far as material flow.
Yeah.
That could change also in the future.
Certainly. So we have addressed the foundation, the fact that it does edge on the flood zone and that is going to require some footers and some more site work. The garage, for parking needs, does add square footage to the project. And we are not budgeting for prevailing wage at this point because we're still under 50% of state contribution. Even with the additional money I'm talking about requesting, we're still under that mark.
So would you, because it's in a flood zone and you do have extenuating circumstances, would you increase the contingency fund for the project?
Commissioner, we're holding about a 5% contingency fund, and as far as it being a flood zone, the design is already taking that into consideration. There'll be, on this project right now, it's designed 108 concrete piers with concrete piles, with pile caps to hold the building up.
108?
Yes, sir.
Jeez. How many cars you gonna get in that garage? It's gonna be full of piers. Okay.
Those are all below the level of the garage, I believe.
Correct. They're foundation piers.
Oh, they're foundation
Yeah.
piers.
Foundation piles.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's all holding everything up.
So the building doesn't sink or float away or anything like that.
I've just lived through French Ferry Firehouse and, contingencies don't seem to go as far as they used to.
CJ is doing an excellent job of staying on top of all the details for this one. So here we are, our estimated total project cost currently is 10.1 million. The current FY22 CIP has the project at 9.1 million. So as I said, some of that is coming from fire marshal review. the bulk of it is an increase from kind of a generic square footage estimate to an actual estimate based on the design. And then putting in those contingency funds. So ad alternate items are not included. We'll be making, Calvert Library Foundation will be doing some fundraising for us to help with that. And then that leaves our fixture furnishings and equipment budget intact so that it's not being pulled into construction.
So let me ask this question. So we're obviously we're just estimating out a cost, but we're not locking in on any contracts like for a so if their material costs go down,
Correct.
is that going to be contingent in this contract that lowers the price of this thing?
We haven't done the construction bidding yet, but CJ can speak to that.
Because I don't want to lock in paying somebody something per, you know how that game works. You've seen it, when it's a county dime, they think it's, unlimited to where, we'll charge them, say $100, but then their cost drops down to 70. That's got to be, especially during these COVID times, that's got to be in there.
Commissioner, generally speaking, the Calvert County contracts for the lump sum projects, once you put in a lump sum bid, the general contractor takes the risk of if it increases, that's their risk. If it decreases, that's their savings.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because with Prince Road Firehouse, they're dealing with that, and we don't have any repercussions in our contract that we have to pay them more because it's just the nature of the business. So
When are you at the bid point?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hutchins?
When are you at the bid point?
When do you think you're ready to bid?
Early summer, I believe.
Late summer, midsummer, we'll be putting together a bid package to go out to bid for the
So
start
early
date
fall?
of late fall, mid to late fall.
Late fall? Did you hear that, Commissioner
I would
Hutchins?
think by sometime midsummer, we ought to see what the materials flow and how our capacity as a nation is built back up. Right now, for instance, wiring is very hard to get. So it's those kinds of things that are going to be caught up at some point in time, hopefully in the next 90 to 180 days.
Commissioners, this is Jennifer Moreland, Director of Community Resources. I just wanted to add that, our main reason for going to you today is because it takes time to get that request for the state capital funding approved for fiscal year 23, and we need to show it reflected in our budget, in our CIP, in order to make that request.
Understood, but you're asking us to increase the CIP by $1 million for the project. And of that $1 million, how much are we responsible for?
You're responsible for none of it unless the grant doesn't come through from the state. So what we've managed to do this legislative session in Annapolis is to get a veto override of last year's bill that increased the state capital grant from $5 million to $7.5 million. The governor vetoed that last year, but we were able to get a veto override through both houses this session. Right. So in fiscal 23, that fund will be $7.5 million. And I think a request from us for $2.5 million for that project will not be looked upon unfavorably. There's $2 million in the governor's budget for us this year, and this is the first time that Calvert County has used any of the money in that grant program. So I think because it's a project that's underway, if you all support it, we'll get support from the state from it as well. But that, as Jennifer said, that the support from the state is contingent on support from you all.
So the ask today is that we increase the capital CIP for this project by $1 million. You expect that funding to come from the state, but
yes,
could be us in the end. But
it could be
you
in the end,
anticipate that state.
But I will do my due diligence and do a good job on my grant request that will go to them in May. So
Okay.
yes, you're agreeing today to sign off on the letter that says that you're supporting that in the
Right.
CIP so that that grant request goes through. Yep, that's exactly right. And yeah, that's where we are. Right
We
now.
already did that.
We did that, yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like there should be something to where where there's some type of threshold, especially in an extreme time like this. I mean, if materials cost, and Commissioner Hutchins brings a good point. We might have a better feel in September, but if materials drop 10 or 15%, that's considerable. I mean, and I know there's a risk factor in there too, but I don't know. That just seems like a big swing when you hear 600% in concrete.
Yeah, and
What if it
again,
comes down 300%?
I am never gonna give you guys that kind of detail, because what really the cost difference is really coming to from a generic, like it costs $3.17 a square foot, to here's the design we've got, and then CostCon had to go through each piece and say what it was gonna cost.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what the public hears. Public hears 600,000.
Can you edit that
And-
out of my?
And I will tell you, I have had long talks with directors about bullet points. And when you say a
It's the problem
number,
of being a quasi-county agency.
you say a number, comes right back to the 5 going, I know you're not taking my money and signing off on $600 or 600% concrete.
No, we certainly are not.
So,
We're
so,
signing
so
off
maybe,
on a
maybe today
beautiful
food for thought
two-story
is
building. Never say
a
that again.
close to accurate number is humanly possible with no speculation.
Well, that's where we are with the cost estimate from CostCon as part of the architectural package.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
I can't see Commissioner Hutchins. All right, so, action. We need a motion to add $1 million to the project.
In state capital grant funds.
Or maybe we're not gonna get a motion.
I have a hard time with it. I'm
For
I'm not kidding.
For state capital fund,
Correct.
yes.
good with
This
that.
is, all right?
That's
good-
that's
I'm
my
good
only
with that.
ask for you today, Commissioner Hart.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that
And we're-
million is
we are-
because of the cost of materials going up.
And the
That's
change in the
That's
size
a fair
of the
amount of it, but
design.
it's also the design has gotten larger to accommodate all the pieces that need to be in it, yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, Mr. President.
Commissioner Hutchins is seconded. I have a motion and a second that we add $1 million for fiscal year '23 to account for the increased construction costs for the Twin Beaches Library. Any discussion on that motion?
Just
With
one,
the extent that it's coming from the capital grants from the state.
Yes.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any other discussion?
It just globally, you know, I view this almost like the school system and an anomaly that Commissioner Hutchins has spoken of. This is an anomaly, hopefully, just like the school enrollment numbers
Right.
are an anomaly.
Right.
So, that's all.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
We had to make you sweat.
You did a great job.
We're not done.
Still more people on the roof.
So we are at public comment. Do we have any today?
If there is anyone who's called in for public comment, we ask you to press star 9 to raise your hand. You'll be identified by the last 4 digits of the phone number you're calling in. When called upon, please identify yourself by name and then whether you are speaking on behalf of a group or if you are an individual.
There are no speakers.
All right, we have no comment today, so Commissioner reports. Commissioner Hutchins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 things here. Remember Chaplain Moeller and his family in your thoughts as he lost his wife this past weekend. This weekend, a history scholar fair was held by the public schools, and congratulations to the participants in this most important topic. Not that there are other topics are not of equal importance in life, but this aspect of history stands out as it's the basis for where we are today and used to where we will be further in the community. The Spanish philosopher, Spanish-born American philosopher George Santiago once remarked that those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. So congratulations to all in their endeavor in this important topic. That'll conclude mine, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchins. Commissioner Hart?
Nothing today, Mr. President.
Commissioner McConkey?
Nothing today, sir.
Commissioner Weems?
I have nothing, sir.
Darn, it's a quiet bunch today.
Well, we can't go nowhere.
Just want to remind everybody that the public hearing is tonight at 7 o'clock on the county's budget. So budget's been advertised for a while. You can get to it on the website and view it. And if you have questions or comments, you can call in tonight and make those. The only comment I have is, there's been a lot of discussion lately about the schools opening up. And just want to remind everyone that, you hear bits and pieces. You have to get the whole story. The schools are in a tough spot because of social distancing. And as you can imagine, a classroom that once held 25, when you have to keep everybody 6 feet apart, greatly diminishes your capacity. So keep in mind that there are those guidelines and requirements in place that don't allow them to just open up the doors. So we slowly but surely hope we get there. I know the 5 of us want to see the kids back in school just as soon as we possibly can. It's just a process that we're all going to have to be patient and work through. So with that, would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. President, I move that we go into executive session, closed to the public pursuant to general provisions article section 3-305 of the annotated code of Maryland to discuss 1, land acquisition, 3-305B3. The board will discuss possible acquisition of real property for a public purpose and related matters. 2, land acquisition, 3-305B3. The board will discuss possible acquisition of real property for a public purpose and related matters.
Second?
Have a motion and a second that we go into executive session. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Everyone have a great day.